Hello, this is Alice Dreger, founder and publisher of East Lansing Info, the area's only, and possibly the nation's only, successful citizen reporter, nonprofit, independent local news organization. Today I'm going to tell you briefly about what we do at Eli, why it really matters to democracy, what it costs, and how you can pitch in to help. So what do we do at Eli? Why does Eli exist? Well, we bring East Lansing the news. We do it by using citizen journalists working in a public service, nonprofit format. We bring accurate, nonpartisan, factual, meaningful local news that you could not otherwise get. We keep East Lansing from becoming what experts call a news desert, a place that has no real local news reporting. In fact, not only do we help East Lansing avoid becoming a news desert, since 2014 we've turned East Lansing into a blooming news garden. Right now, local newspapers all over the country are closing. Original reporting is expensive, ads don't generate much revenue, and many people think they should get the news for free. That creates local news deserts. The local newspapers that do exist are often owned by big national companies whose mission is profit. There's nothing wrong with for-profit business, including in journalism, but when you try to do local news that way, you can't do much local reporting. That's the economic reality. What you get are pseudo-local news stories, stories that look local but are pumped into local papers by the national organizations to fill content and generate clicks, like this one that the USA Today network pushed out in local papers to generate ad revenue. This stuff is cheap, easy to produce, and it makes money. Reporting on local government and schools, by contrast, is expensive to produce and doesn't produce much ad revenue. Here's a graphic from a recent Bloomberg News story by Riley Griffin, a graphic based on a study from Duke University. The study examined local news in 100 communities with a population range of 20,000 to 300,000, the range in which our city would fall. What these researchers found is that only 17% of news stories in so-called local papers are really about local events. Here's how this pie chart would look if you analyze what Eli brings to East Lansing. We are hyper-local. We don't exist to tell you what the regional and the national papers could. We exist to fill the local news gap, and we put 100% of our energy towards that. Here's another graphic from the same article. What it shows is that among the 100 newspapers whose articles the Duke researchers sampled, only 1 in 10 news stories produced were original, local, and addressing a critical information need. By contrast, Eli's production is 100% local and about 98% original. We're not 100% original because on rare occasions we seek and obtain permission to reprint relevant work from other places, as happened with this story written by a reporter who also works for us. What about addressing those critical information needs? That's what we focus on every day. That is in fact our core mission. No one else brings you regular reporting on East Lansing City Council, regular reporting on East Lansing's Public Schools Board of Trustees, deep campaign finance reporting, like when we looked at which marijuana industry companies were donating to the income tax campaign. Original investigative reporting, as we've done on the $132 million public-private Center City redevelopment deal. We bring you news that helps you understand our city, its history, its present, its future. We know that local is where you live, and you deserve to know how your local life may be changing. Does it matter whether or not we have Eli? To quote that recent Bloomberg News story, without journalists digging through property records or attending city council meetings, looking for official wrongdoing and revealing secret deals, local politicians will operate unchecked, with predictable consequences. Does local news really matter? Well, recent studies have shown that when communities lack local news, voter turnout goes down, municipal bond costs rise, and government expenditures go up. That's what happens with a lack of transparency when you lack independent news organizations. As Riley Griffin put it, more broadly, towns without serious local news coverage demonstrate less social cohesion, corroding any actual sense of community. Think about it. Who else reports for East Lansing on things like the Bircham Peace and Love Fence? What's happening in our schools, our community centers, and our service organizations? Who else pushes for government transparency like Eli, whether that be looking into whether the City Council has followed expert recommendations on our $200 million debt, or looking at whether our government is following the law of the Open Meetings Act? Eli pushes to get information that's supposed to be public and then brings it to you in a manner that's comprehensible, factually accurate, relevant, meaningful. We make it possible for you to be an informed, engaged member of this community. So what does it cost for Eli to bring East Lansing the news? In 2019, we estimate Eli will cost about $100,000 in total to run. Total. That's why right now we're working to raise $80,000 by year's end, so that with what we have in the bank, plus what we have committed from steady donors, we'll have enough to get through 2019, able to bring you the timely, high-quality news you expect from us. How does Eli manage to run for an entire year on what some news organizations would reasonably pay for a single full-time reporter with benefits? Eli is a nonprofit citizen reporter news organization that approaches news production as a public service. We would love it if we had the funds to pay serious journalists serious money. But like in a lot of cities, there's no economy here for that. Instead, we recruit regular people, some of whom have training in journalism or communications, but many of whom don't, and we help them report the local news. A lot of what our reporters bring to you is pretty straightforward, but it's information you would likely not get any other way. We bring you arts and entertainment reporting in depth and breadth that nobody else does for East Lansing. Some of the reporting is provided voluntarily without pay. For example, I choose not to get paid by Eli for my work, but today most of our reporters are paid, and that's why they're able to take the time to do this for you. For reporting that requires more substantial work, we work closely with less experienced reporters, or we work in teams to make sure that what we're bringing you is high quality, accurate, and thorough. This report, for example, was produced by two of our reporters who at the time were seniors in East Lansing High School. Disclosure, one of them was my son. Both were graduates of Eli's Summer Youth Journalism program. For the last 2 years, we've had Cody Harrell, a professional journalism educator, provide this 2-week intensive program to high school students. A number of them have kept on reporting for us. This is a serious job for them, and they become ambassadors of media literacy. We'll do the program again next year if we can afford it. The Eli team is increasingly becoming the subject of national media reporting. That's because we're using this groundbreaking model. At Eli, we have high schoolers, new college graduates, stay-at-home parents, artists, senior citizens, all doing serious reporting together. Our reporters are embedded, committed, and paid not very much, generally from $50 to $125 for a published article, depending on the level of work involved. As the member of the volunteer board of directors who runs the nonprofit corporation that is Eli, I provide you regular transparency reports, telling you what are our expenses and where your donated dollars are going. We firmly believe this organization belongs to this community, so we want you to know what it's doing for you. Every month, consistently, around 85% of our expenses go to paying local people to do this work for you. So out of every dollar you give us, all but about 15 cents pays someone local to bring you the news. The rest is spent on content distribution, reporting expenses for things like the Freedom of Information Act request charges, accounting, buying a small amount of office supplies, stationery, and stamps to help send thanks to donors. We don't waste your money at Eli. We know you want us to be thrifty. We run on a shoestring budget because we're only here to do one thing, deliver news to a city that would otherwise have very little. So how can you help? By making a tax-deductible contribution today. And great news, from now through midnight on New Year's Eve, what you donate will be doubled. That's because Eli was accepted this year into NewsMatch, a national matching campaign to support nonprofit news organizations, funded by groups like the MacArthur Foundation and the Knight Foundation. NewsMatch is going to match $25,000 for us. And on top of that, a group of core Eli supporters have committed $15,000 for matching, bringing our total matchability to $40,000. You know what that means. If we can raise $40,000 with that $40,000 in matching funds, we will have raised $80,000, and our sustainability for 2019 will be guaranteed. Right now, every individual donor lump sum contribution made by check or credit card will be matched, and every new monthly subscription commitment, which you can easily do with a credit card or an automatic bill payment, will be matched at the annual rate. That means if you give us $10 a month, it becomes $120 a month from you, plus another $120 matched, bringing us $240 closer to our $80,000 goal. If we can obtain that level of support from you and folks like you, we can keep reporting through 2019, bringing you information you're not going to get anywhere else, keeping you informed about local elections and local happenings, getting you the information you are entitled to know, and reminding you about what makes East Lansing a great place to live. All you have to do is go to one page and act now to support this wonderful team. Thank you. And remember, every dollar you give us gets us $2 closer to sustainability for 2019. Help us bring East Lansing the news.